Are you struggling with fear, depression, or anxiety? Are you in search of meaning and purpose? Would you like help navigating your current life circumstances? Tarot can help. Tarot is a powerful tool for healing, introspection, and spiritual awakening. The Esoteric Toolkit is a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science. It consists of tarot, numerology, astrology, and the Hermetic principles in conjunction with the modern science of consciousness. The revelation and application of this knowledge gives you the tools you need to help master your life, organize your mind, and overcome depression, fear, and anxiety. Learn to manifest your dreams and come into alignment with your highest self and the universe. Book your private one-on-one tarot reading today. Click the link in the description or go to www.theorderofchaosmagic.com. You can also find monthly tarot packages, a private Discord community featuring shadow work, and Mercury retrograde support groups, and much more by becoming a patron at patreon.com/theorderofchaos.
The following message is transmitted.
All right, welcome back to the Order of Chaos podcast. Today I am sitting down with my friend Jessica, and Jessica is a seeker and a student of the mysteries just like me, and she's also a member of my Patreon and Discord community. And today we're just going to sit down and talk about kind of the topic that we're also interested in, which is spirituality and healing through spirituality and the benefits it can have for you. So yeah, hi Jessica.
Hi, happy to be here.
Awesome, glad to have you. Real quick, before we get started, if you would like to see the unedited and uncensored version of this podcast and all future podcasts, and you want to get in on the Discord chat, then consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/theorderofchaos. You get the all the behind the scenes and the bloopers and the stuff we can't say on YouTube. So yeah. Anyways, how are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I'm glad that we got to talking and started talking about this topic, because it's really the whole reason I started doing any of this was because I found that by discovering the spiritual dimension, by discovering a spiritual path, I became a much healthier, happier person. And, all the other stuff is really cool, and like learning, the secrets of the universe and occultism is all super cool, but like the very best thing about it is that you start to feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, growing on my spiritual journey was absolutely the way out of a very, very dark place that I had found myself in.
Yeah.
So I really hope that I can share my story and maybe it'll resonate with someone.
Yeah. And that's what this is all about. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you the space to do exactly that. Share as much as you'd like and tell us how you got to where you are.
Yeah, sure. So I'm someone in recovery. I would say probably my whole life I've kind of struggled with depression, anxiety. I was just talking to someone about this last night, like just this general feeling of like, I just don't want to be here. Like, I just feel like this planet, this dimension is just like not for me. Like, I've just always kind of had that, just like, oh, I just don't want to be here. I've struggled with mental health my whole life. And about 7 years ago, I was in the depths of a really, really severe heroin addiction. Every day, couldn't function without it. And I know drug addiction is like such a big problem right now, and it's gotten actually worse since COVID. So I think this is kind of something a lot of people are dealing with right now. But yeah, I was like a daily IV heroin user, among many, many other things. And I was just in such a dark place. I wanted to die, but I was so apathetic that I didn't even care enough to kill myself, if that makes sense. I just remember waking up, like every time I would do a shot, I would think, I hope this is enough to just overdose. Like, I just hope I never wake up. And every time I would come out of it and I would just think, fuck, why am I still here? And I just felt like that every single day. I'm like, why am I not dead yet? Like, why won't this just kill me already? So I just kind of spiraled like that for a while, until eventually my family intervened. Both of my parents are also recovering opiate addicts. And fortunately, at that point, my dad had about 4 years under his belt. So he was like, enough is enough. Like, I'm shipping you up to the rehab that I got clean at, in Napa, this rehab called McAllister. So I literally just got thrown into his car one day, and I took a medical leave of absence from work because somehow I still had a job. I don't even know how that's possible. But my dad drove me up to this rehab in the middle of Napa that I had never been to, and just dropped me off and said, you're going to stay here for 3 months. And I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I had no idea where I was. I kind of came to in this rehab in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was kind of like where you go when you have nowhere else to go. Just to give you a little context, this rehab is on the grounds of the Napa State Prison, and it's a lockdown facility, and it used to be a children's psych ward. So this place is pretty intense, and most of the people that end up there are, coming from prison, or, they were like court appointed to be there, and they don't really want to be there. So it was a pretty gnarly environment, and I really struggled. I ended up getting high in the detox there like a couple times. And I just got to the point where I was like, if I can't even stay clean here in a detox in a town where I don't know anybody, like, I'm never going to make it. I'm going to die. Like, this is not going to work. And I got so desperate one time, I just like raised my hand in a group meeting and I said, I don't know what to do. I want to get high all the time. This isn't working for me. I don't want to be here. Like, I'm not connecting with this place. Like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going to die, but I can't stop getting high. And this woman came up to me after the meeting and said, the only solution for you at this point is to get on your knees every day and pray to some kind of higher power to remove the obsession to use and give you, because I had lost my will to live pretty much. Like, that's really what the bottom of it was. And I was so desperate and I had no other options that I was like, fuck it. I literally have nothing else to lose. Like, I'm just going to try it. And so I did. And every single morning I like would throw myself onto the ground of this like dirty like room that I was sharing with someone. And I would just like honestly and desperately pray to the universe to like save my life. And sure enough, like things started happening. And I would say that is when I had my like spiritual awakening. And I think I want to talk about that because I feel like a lot of people talk about, I had this spiritual awakening. But you don't really hear a lot of what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And I really want to talk about what mine looked like because it was very intense and it was very like in my face and like not what I thought a spiritual awakening would look like. So I started praying like this, really desperately praying every single day. And things just started changing around me. I noticed that like the people who I was in rehab with, who were getting high, who were not taking it seriously, who didn't want to be there, they started leaving on their own. And like new people started coming in that were like good people and that wanted to be there and that had better energy. And I was like, okay, this is weird. And then I would start kind of testing things a little bit because I am so like cynical and like, oh, this can't really be happening. Oh, this may just be a coincidence. So I started asking really pointed questions. And sure enough, like I would get direct answers immediately, like through other people. Because you have to understand, I was in a lockdown facility We were not allowed to leave. We didn't have phones. We didn't have TVs. So I was with other people constantly, 24/7. When you're in a facility like that, you're never alone. It's never quiet. There's always people talking to you. So if you come at it from the position of, oh, spirit guides talk to you through other people, they were like, well, we got her, like, we got a captive audience here. So they did not shut up. So I would like ask questions and then go outside and someone would come up to me and answer the question that I had just asked. Like, that is how in your face, unambiguous, clear, like it was beyond anything I could doubt at that point, because it was ridiculously clear and like poignant, and just there was no denying what was happening at that point. So that began for about a solid month, this constant conversation that I was in with the universe that never stopped. Every thought that I had, every question I would ask, I would get a direct answer to. And it felt like I was in this constant conversation with the universe, to the point where it actually became overwhelming a couple times. And there actually was one day where I went up to one of the counselors and I was like, I think I'm having some kind of mental health emergency, because I feel like other people can read my thoughts and I don't know what's going on, but I think I'm in some kind of delayed psychosis and I want to go to the hospital. Like, that's how just constant all the time it was, this like constant dialogue between my prayers, my thoughts, what I was asking, and the messages that I was getting. So I just kind of wanted to go into that a little bit, because I mean, that's just my experience. I feel like everyone's experience is different, but I feel like the most important thing that I did was I just like honestly sought some kind of relationship with something. And I really didn't think anything was going to show up, but it did. And I also found from that once you create that connection, it doesn't stop. Like, even when you sometimes want it to. Sometimes I don't want to constantly be told what to do or like what I should be doing. And it never stops. Which is very comforting, but it's also kind of intimidating, because sometimes when the universe gives you a really clear direction, you don't always want to take it, because I still just want to do what I want to do sometimes. So that's another kind of piece of it too. So yeah, I would say, that experience really kind of like changed things for me, because once you see like for sure 100% there is something out there, there is something that gives a shit about you, and that wants you to live, it's really hard to go back to that place of like, fuck everything, I don't care. Like, you can't almost.
Yeah,
I agree. Like, and I didn't stay clean after that experience, but it's, my mom says this thing to me. She says, you keep trying to lay down in the gutter and die, and the universe just won't let you. Like, I've had experiences happen to me where, and this was after this experience at McAllister in Napa. I ended up homeless at one point, and I would do shit like park my car in a Rite Aid parking lot and drink in my car for 3 days and pass out until someone noticed and called the cops. And the cops would like show up and pull me out of my car and tell me, we came here to save your life. Like, the universe sent us here to save your life. We're taking you to the hospital. And so once you've had experiences like that, it's really hard to go, no one gives a shit about me. Like, the universe, like, God isn't real. We're all just meat puppets, like, with no connection or attachment to anything bigger than ourselves. Once you've had that direct evidence that there is something else, it's really, really hard to let yourself kind of slip back into that just nihilistic state of mind.
I think it's impossible.
Yeah.
I honestly, because it's not something you create. It's something you realize. You have this sudden, stark realization that you are in a relationship with the universe. and that you don't have any choice about this. You're in a relationship with the universe, and that the way you treat that relationship will determine everything about your life. If you ignore that relationship and are abusive to that relationship, then it will ignore you and be abusive to you in return. And if you like nurture that relationship and, make the universe your best friend, then that's what you will get in return. And it's because whatever it is, I like to say the universe or the all, but any language of symbolism that works for you is fine. I'm not here to say that this set of gods is correct and some other set of gods is incorrect. I think that they're all just different expressions and languages for forming and communicating, that relationship to the universe that we're all in, whether you want to be or not. Like, you're in the universe, you are of the universe, you come from it. We all come from this planet, and the planet comes from the universe. And it's I like to take an animistic point of view, and say that the universe is alive and conscious, and that all space and time and matter is all consciousness, and your consciousness is in a constant dialogue with whatever it is that you want to call it, God, the universe, the spirits, your ancestors. All of these things are true. They're all different ways and languages of communicating with the metaphysical realm, with the universe. And so when you have that realization that this is happening, and that when you talk to it, it will talk back to you.
Yeah. Loud and clear.
There's no going back from that, because once you go through that door, and one of the first things you'll realize along a spiritual journey through experience is that the doorway to out there is in here. You can go searching for answers in the exterior world and kind of drive yourself crazy. But when you go inward into your interior world, you find that all the answers are there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably, the best advice I could give to anyone who's interested in spirituality or occult, or just kind of living a more meaningful life, is just start asking for that relationship, or asking questions. Because I really feel like the universe is going to show up for you in a way that makes the most sense for that person, and in a way that's going to be most meaningful to their experience. For me, it was like through talking to other people, probably because that's the only method there was. I didn't have any, that's all I had at the time. But I think it's smart enough to show up for you in a way that's going to give you the most value, and be also the most convincing, because, the way that it spoke to me isn't going to probably be the same as the way it speaks to somebody else. I think it's a really personal relationship, and it's going to show up for everyone in the way that they need it. So I don't really think anyone can go out there and say, well, God talked to me, or the universe or whatever, spoke to me in this way, and so that's the real way. It just doesn't work like that. It's deeply personal, and it's different for everybody, and they're all equally valid and important.
Yes, exactly. And that is so important. And that's the next stage that I think we need to get to in terms of this spiritual awakening. Mass spiritual awakening is happening all over the world, and all over social media, where we all exist. But you will see a lot of that kind of spiritual narcissism, like, my God is the correct God, or God chose me, I'm literally the chosen one, all of that. We need to move past that and realize that what the truth is, that every single individual on this planet is in their own personal relationship with the universe around them. And it includes all other people. And we're all part of one thing, but we're also each our own individual slices of that one thing, the universe, and we're experiencing, we are the universe experiencing itself through our perspective. Right. But you're in a relationship with the entirety of the universe all the time, and all the people around you. And so let go of all this I'm special stuff. We're all special. And it is incredibly special. The feeling you'll get from engaging in a positive way in this relationship with the universe is going to make you feel so good. You don't need any of that other stuff. You really don't need any, feelings of being chosen or anything like that. It's enough as it is. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And you are incredibly lucky if you have had these awakening experiences. You will feel incredibly fortunate. You'll feel like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And I want to help other people have the same experience. And I think, while that's what people like you and I are here for, you can't force it on anyone either.
Yeah. And I don't think I would have had it if I hadn't have literally been desperate and had no other option. That I was not, I've always been into witchcraft and occult and tarot and that kind of stuff, but I wasn't into like God and like the universe and having a super intense spiritual practice until I literally had no other option. I was like basically locked up in this psych ward pretty much and just suffering. And I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, I have no other option. I couldn't talk to my family. I couldn't talk to anyone on the outside. It's like I had to be in that place where there was no other option and there was nowhere else to go but up. So, there's definitely beauty in those just like rock bottom moments of like, fuck it, I'm so desperate. Like, whatever, let's just give this a shot, and I tell people that too, even if you don't believe in it, like, even if what you're saying is like, all right, this is stupid, I don't believe in this, but whatever, I'm going to give it a try. Like, you don't have to even believe that what you're doing is real. Just do it and see what happens. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Well, just engage in the dialogue, right? Like all the rituals, even the tarot. I mean, the tarot is a powerful set of symbols, and we can get into that are helpful as tools, but it's just a tool, right? The dialogue that you can have with the universe, you don't need to know or do anything. You just need to close your eyes and shut up. Just be quiet. Sit somewhere. It could even be a loud city. I don't recommend it, but I'm just saying, like, no matter where you are in life or anywhere in your situation, you can have this. You don't need any special anything. All that stuff is cool and it helps, and you develop a language with the universe through sets of tools. Like I've developed through the tarot my own like relationship to universe that's cohesive to both of us, and we get it and we're good at having that talk. But the tarot is just a way to do it. For some other people, it could be the runes. For a lot of people, it's astrology. I love astrology, but there are different systems of astrology, and not everybody even speaks the same astrological language. There's sidereal, there's tropical, there's placidus, there's whole sign houses. There's lots of options there. So whatever works for you, right, is the thing that is what I guess in the direction you should move. But the foundation of that is completely within your own being, and there's nothing external about it. It's just letting yourself be quiet and still for a moment and realize that connection is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something really beautiful, and you don't need anything. Like, you don't need this crystal, you don't need this meditation playlist. It's nice to have those things, but I mean, I can say like I found a connection to something with nothing. Like, and in a way I almost feel like that's how it had to happen for me. And it's cool too, because once you become open and you start listening, for me, at least, the universe kind of will guide me to what it wants me to do. Like with tarot, I found tarot there because one of my roommates had a tarot deck. And so I was like, oh, I remember these when I was a kid. Like, and I started using tarot, and I would do tarot readings for the other clients there. And it was great, but it's like the universe will put things in your lap that it wants you to develop, I think. And
100%.
And just being open to that and listening to the direction that it's giving you is really beautiful.
There's a concept within Thelema, which is the religion founded by Aleister Crowley, called your true will. And that's just to say, it's not to say, a lot of people mistake it for like what you really, really want to do. That's not what your true will is. Your true will is what you're here to do, your purpose. It's more akin to the Hindu concept of dharma. And I personally believe that through astrology and numerology, you can divine exactly what it is that your soul came here to do. Not pinpoint it down to like, you're supposed to work at this place and do this thing, but a very general direction of where you're supposed to be headed in this lifetime. And when you align with that, when you align with your true will, whether you believe you can divine it through astrology or not, that's just my belief. But when you align with what it feels to you like you're really supposed to be doing in this lifetime, and you feel like you're doing it, this incredible thing happens where the universe just starts giving you everything you need to do it, just drops it right in front of you. And it was the same for me with tarot, because I had been studying occultism since I was a teenager, and all these different path workings and like types of magic. I was really into the inner workings of metaphysics and trying to figure out how it all worked and stuff like that. But in 2018, I had a powerful spiritual awakening experience that blew all that other stuff out of the window. And one of the first things that happened afterwards was I felt a deep inner calling to tarot. And then, from getting my first deck to now, it's like this, it's been a part of my life every single day, this deep, deep connection. And so I feel very much like the universe said, here you go, here is the language, the tool that you and I need to start having this dialogue. And, I very much feel like when that happened, the universe was saying like, okay, it's go time. Like you were supposed to figure this out a long time ago and you didn't. So now we're just going to shove it in your face because you're late.
It's funny that you said that, because I kind of got the same energy. I feel like mine was more around like helping people and being of service, because one thing I noticed really quickly is anytime I would feel upset or frustrated, I would like ask for help, and then immediately someone would ask me for help. And it was like, I felt like the message very clearly was like, stop fucking focusing on yourself and like being so selfish. Like there's people that need help, go help them. And that was just constantly the message. Every time I was like being kind of self-centered and like, well, what about me? Like, why do I feel this way? The universe would respond with like, go help this person, please. Like, please, like stop.
And I think that for a lot of people, that's how they learn to take care of themselves. Is through learning to help others. You learn to take care of yourself, because a lot of us don't really know how to do it very well.
Absolutely.
I definitely felt the calling to I definitely felt a calling to help people as much as I could, because I realized right away that having this spiritual awakening does wonders for your mental health. It opens all these doors, because, I believe that there is a hierarchy, and it goes spirit, mind, body. If you get your spiritual health in line, your mental health becomes so much easier to manage. And if you get your mental health in line, your physical health becomes so much easier to manage. And the three are all connected. They're not separate of each other, but they are different things. Your spirit, your mind, and your body are all three different parts of you that oftentimes have very different reactions to the circumstances around you. Like when I had my Kundalini awakening experience and my spiritual awakening experience, whatever you want to call it, it caused me a tremendous amount of physical pain. It caused me like a back spasm that was like literally the worst back pain I ever felt in my life. And actually that pain led me to a Reiki healer who was also a medium. And I had a powerful experience with her. And it was just, this is how it happens. When you have this experience, the universe starts throwing these breadcrumbs down for you to follow. And they're these synchronistic events. And you follow this breadcrumb trail until you come to the awakening experience. And I think that is a rough blueprint for kind of how it happens for everybody. I mean, there's wild amounts of variation in there, but I do think that that's kind of like you have the awakening, or you have the jolting experience, then you start talking to the universe. It starts leading you in a direction, and it leads you to the true awakening, which is the undeniable realization that the metaphysical realm is real, that you are in a relationship with spirit, that magic and synchronicity and all of these things are now available to you. And the universe wants us to figure this out. I really think it does. And I think that the universe wants us to figure it out in the same way that a puppy wants you to play with it. It keeps throwing the ball at you until you pick up the ball and throw it, and then you're in a dialogue. And I think that the universe is kind of always doing that to people.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that was made it so intense for me, was that it was so immediate. I had this idea, at least for me, I had this idea in my mind of like, oh, I'll ask a question or I'll pray or I'll do this, and it'll take weeks for the answer to come or for something to happen. And for me, it was like instant. It was like, hello, we've been waiting for you. Like, where the fuck have you been?
Yes.
And that's what was so surprising for me. It was literally within 10 seconds of me putting something out there, I would get a response. Like I wasn't expecting it to be so immediate. And that's part of what made it so convincing for me as well, is that it was, okay, this has to be connected. But I love what you said about, the connection between mental health and spirituality. I definitely have found that to be true for myself. I've tried many, many, many different medications and nothing has really worked for me. And I would say the only thing that really has improved my mental health, successfully is spirituality. And in my experience, when I'm kind of following the steps that the universe wants me to take, I tend to be happier and more fulfilled and more confident. And it just kind of all comes and I think for me too, learning how to trust that was hard because I'm stubborn and I'm like, no, I want to go this way. I want to do this thing. But for me, I had to really learn how to trust the direction that the universe wanted me to go in, because I've found that it's often not the direction I wanted to go in.
Right.
But if I just kind of surrender and say, okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to do this thing, something really good comes out of it. And it's, and that learning how to just trust and not question everything and not be so resistant has been something I've had to develop for sure.
Definitely, in order to feel the full experience of like the tailwind effect that the universe can gives you, that I've always noticed that when you align the different parts of yourself so they all have the same goal, that's when you really experience that wind behind your sails. If you get your higher self, your middle self, and your lower self, or spirit, body, and mind, there's so many different ways to phrase these things, right? You could even say your sun sign, your rising sign, and your moon sign, for example. When you get these three basic components of yourself all to agree with each other about what is best for you and where you want to go, that's when you have like this super powerful manifestation ability. But oftentimes, and this is the struggle in life, is that they want different things. They have different ideas. And because we're raised in a, not that these practices haven't existed forever, but like they've turned into religions, and the wisdom is so veiled in all these different metaphors and this and that, we're very disconnected from spirituality. I would say as a species, just overall as a species, we're very disconnected from spirituality. And so we're, reforming that connection now and figuring out like, oh, wow, this is all real. This can change my life, but it's something that naturally had been there before.
Yeah, I absolutely think that there's a correlation between the drug crisis, the mental health crisis, the health crisis that we're experiencing collectively, and that lack of spirituality that we have in our culture. I mean, other cultures, they kind of built their society around spirituality, and we've kind of done the opposite. We kind of cram it in here and there, like yoga class here, meditation class here, but it's not what our lives revolve around like it used to be. And I think that there's definitely something to that.
Something I always think about is, how wonderful, not to knock the modern age, like this is cool that you and I are able to have this conversation through a computer. It's wonderful. But how cool would it have been to exist in a time free of distraction and pollution? Free of TV, radio, no cell phones, no noise pollution, no planes in the sky, none of it. Right. That relationship to the universe would be so much clearer and more apparent to you because you wouldn't be so distracted by everything else. You'd spend a lot of time alone with yourself, figuring these things out. And so I think that's why these ancient cultures had such a strong connection to spirit. And they knew beyond any shadow of a doubt that you're not your body and you're not your mind either, because you can think about your thoughts. You can lose an arm and you're still you. So what is that core essentially you, and that's a question that drove entire cultures and their sense of mysticism, and they figured this shit out. And now we're, in this age starting to figure it out again.
Absolutely. And I really believe that part of the equation of the spiritual awakening that I had is that I didn't have cell phone, TV, phone, nothing. Like, it's a weird experience in this day and age as an adult to be suddenly plopped into an environment where you're cut off from everything like overnight, which is how it is in like a lockdown treatment facility like that. And I do think that there was something about not having access to technology for 3 months that could have opened up my pineal gland, or just it had some kind of effect that made it easier to connect with something.
Well, I think I think I started a topic about this in the Discord a while back. I was just kind of realizing that when you just watch TV or like even look at your phone, you're sort of outsourcing your imagination to that device for that period of time, and so when you outsource your imagination or the function of your pineal gland in waking reality, right? When you outsource that part of you that could be imagining and dreaming and going inward, and you're just staring at a screen, that part of you just gets weaker and weaker and weaker all the time. So it's like a muscle you're not using,
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
why I think reading is such a good practice, because it forces you to visualize a lot.
Yeah. And I also would notice, because we were allowed to have TV on in the early morning before breakfast. That was the only time we could have the TV. And usually they would put it on the news. Mm-hmm. And I started noticing that, because the news is all negative, it's bad news, and it would totally change the mood of breakfast. The fact that we had all just watched the news before eating. And I started just kind of noticing these correlations like that, with just constantly being fed negative information, mm-hmm. and then how it kind of affects people's energy levels. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
It is interesting, really, and it creates an interesting paradox, because, and this is a long philosophical conversation we could have, but, in a way, in order to manifest your best self, you have to detach from what's going on around you. Like, the world is on fire right now in so many mm-hmm. ways. And yet the best thing any individual could really do is to shut it out and try to just be the very best version of themselves they can be. And, be helpful to others around them, of course, too. But, don't fall into the panic and the fear and the despair, because that's not going to help the situation at all. It's like, in order to heal the situation, we have to detach from it and focus on ourselves and focus on our own healing, so that, each one of us is responsible for our portion of the collective, right? You are personally responsible for you, because you are a part of the greater whole of the collective consciousness of the world, of the universe. You're a part of it. So, and then you're the part that you're responsible for. So heal yourself, mm-hmm. and this spiritual journey is such a powerful way to accelerate your healing. I mean, I used to be so mentally unwell and physically unwell, and I am so much healthier and happier now because of this journey. And it's just because of, like you were saying in the beginning, knowing that you're not as alone as you feel. Mm-hmm. Number one, you realize that you're connected to the universe, and you realize the universe is connected to everything, and therefore you are connected to everything, and you matter, and you're here to do something. That's another thing that I find is incredibly empowering and healing along the spiritual journey, is you realize that you came here for a reason. You're not just here. You're not just a pile of matter that your parents created, and now, you're sad. That narrative is so toxic. And, if you're out there, you're probably not listening to this if you're a devout atheist, but if you are, is that helping you? Does it help you to feel like you don't matter? In the grand scheme of the universe, it certainly is not a comforting feeling to me. And I know through my own experience and gnosis that it's not true, that everybody is here for a reason. You came here to learn something. It doesn't have to be some grand, movie worthy epic adventure, but most people's lives actually are in one way or another, but you are here to be the hero of your own story, mm-hmm. And that is an option that is available to you at any time that you want to take on that responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, being disconnected from your purpose and it all kind of plays into being severed from a connection with the universe. You know, I would say if you're going to kind of plan this out, first, you know, seek a connection with the universe, see what it has to say for you. And in my experience, at least, a lot of times it's the universe will try and push you to get back on your mission, like get back to what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes. And it will help you get there.
Yeah. And because I feel like I meet so many people that, you know, they don't know what they want to do with their lives. They don't know, you know, they're like working this job that they're not really happy with, and they're just kind of lost and unsure of where they belong or what they should be doing. And I mean, really the best advice I could give would be just ask. You know, the universe will let you know, but I don't think any person can give you that answer.
Yeah, for real. Stop asking your Instagram followers and ask the universe. You know, because people, you know, no one understands your journey but you, but the universe does, because you are the universe and the universe is you. And, you know, if you want to put it in more secular or terms, you know, your subconscious mind is the part of you that's connected to everything. And it's the part of you that is, you know, your conscious thinking mind. If you're really smart, I mean, if you're like a genius, it's about as smart as a pocket calculator. Your subconscious mind is a quantum computer. So take that pocket calculator part of your brain, your conscious thinking ego mind, and query questions to the quantum computer, and you will get your answers back, because it is way smarter than you, immeasurably smarter than you. You can't even begin to comprehend how powerful your subconscious mind is. And so when you use your conscious mind to form a dialogue with the subconscious mind, with the universe, it will speak back to you through synchronicity. Because, and this is the interesting thing about how your brain works, your speech center is in the left side of your brain, which is the conscious thinking mind, and your right brain, the subconscious mind, doesn't have a speech center. So you can't just have that word for word dialogue with yourself. You have to go through this sort of spiritual journey process that's fun, for one thing, you know, so don't be scared of it. But it starts to speak back to you in images and in synchronicities and in events and people, rather than just here's the answer in word form, because it can't do that. It doesn't speak that language.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And the universe is smart enough to speak to you in metaphors and imageries that is very personal to you. Like, yes. For me, I noticed I got a lot of like animal symbolism and metaphors because I love animals. And I would share that with my mentor, and she'd be like, the universe is just talking to you in symbolism that you'll understand.
Yes.
Because it would freak me out. And then when she explained it to me like that, I was like, okay, that makes sense, because that's something that's deeply personal to me and that I have a strong relationship with already. So it's just ask and you will get answers that make sense and that are personalized to you, for sure.
Yeah. And so that brings me to why tarot is such a wonderful and powerful tool, because it's prepackaged symbolism that, you know, that the universe knows this language and can speak to you through it. And by it being a tactile experience, something you do with your hands, you're able to form that connection. You're able to shut off sort of your thinking mind, form that connection to the universe, and have a conversation through symbolism. And of course, the tarot, if you are familiar with the cards, the symbolism in each card is so deep, and there's so much to derive out of every single one. And it truly, even if you aren't into the mystical aspect of shuffling the cards and how they magically produce the correct answer every single time, which still blows me away. I've been doing this for years, and it still blows me away how every single time you will get exactly the answers. But even if you're not into that, you could just look at the tarot as a psychological tool that describes every person and situation and sort of event you can go through in life, every state of consciousness. It's in there somewhere. And there's a clear, you know, card that comes after it. And there's clear symbolism that you can recognize and sort of just help figure out where you're going and what you're doing and you know, what the right direction to go is. It's an incredible tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, you know, I'm a writer, so I'm really drawn to narrative and stories. And for me, what was really, really helpful when learning the tarot was really understanding the story, you know, like the the fool's journey and then the story of each of the suits. For me, at least, it's helpful to pull back and look at this bigger story. And then I can go in and really dissect the imagery on each individual card.
Yeah.
But I find that for people that have a hard time or get overwhelmed with, oh, there's so much to memorize, this is too complicated. It's like, well, wait, let's just look at this story. You're familiar with the hero's journey. This is a story you've heard many, many times already in every movie you've ever seen. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's the same story arc here. It's just in a different format. So it kind of makes it a little more accessible and easier to digest for people, I've found.
Yeah. And it also demonstrates, and this is one of the things, when you were saying about feeling selfish and feeling like, why me, right? These are feelings we all have, and they're totally valid, but spirituality will give you straight up answers. It'd say, here's why. Now, what do you do? Right. And it gets you out of that loop. It gets you stuck out of the loop of why me, constantly wondering why your life is a certain way. It gives you the answers and says, and here's the way out. And then at that point, it's like, shit, if I don't do it, now I realize it's completely my own fault if I don't take this path out that's been given to me.
Absolutely. And for me, at least, that's where kind of, the magic practice comes in. Yeah. Is, at first understanding, okay, I have a relationship with the universe. It's talking to me, it's giving me direction, but also realizing, like, another big thing I realized having that whole awakening experience was our energy and thoughts and vibrations literally affect the material world around us. Like, I noticed this really interesting thing happen, when you're in rehab, you have no control over anything. You don't control when you wake up, when you go to sleep, what you eat, who you sit with, when you leave, nothing. So there's two things that happen. Either you kind of surrender to that and you just learn to go with the flow and be happy and learn how to kind of enjoy that powerlessness, or you get stuck in this like negative, complaining, just constant whining. And I would notice people would go one of two ways. And I noticed the people that were always complaining, who were super negative, always pissed off, like shit around them would break. The phones wouldn't work for them. They couldn't like get on the computer, like stuff would, their tire would be flat just constantly. But the people who would just try and be positive and be helpful and just not get so upset, like they would get jobs, they would get good news. It seems really obvious, but when you're, in this kind of myopic environment where everything is so heightened because there's nothing else to focus on, it just became really, really crystal clear how important it is to be responsible for your mind and your thoughts and your story and what you're telling yourself, because it reverberates out into the world and it will start to affect things around you.
100%. That's another one of the just realizations you have almost right away along the spiritual journey, is that you are affecting reality. And so you better be responsible about how you do it, because you have an aura. Okay. And we could just talk about this from a scientific standpoint. You have electromagnetic field that surrounds you, emanates from your heart, and it's your toroidal sphere or your aura, whatever you want to call it. It's an electromagnetic field, and your state of being, that is your thoughts, the way you feel, the way you carry yourself, the way that you're maintaining yourself in any given moment, changes the vibration of your toroidal field, of your electromagnetic field. The entire universe is nothing but electromagnetic energy. And so your energy is altering the energy of everything around you all the time. And it's also a magnet for other things just like it, because it's an electromagnetic field. So if your aura is filled with hate and dark thoughts and why me and poor me and garbage and junk, you will attract more of the same. If your aura is full of gratitude and positive thinking and self-love, then you're going to get more of that. And it seems so unfair, because you're in that state of depression when you don't know these things. You might look at somebody and think like nothing bad ever happens to that person and everything bad always happens to me. And you might be right about that, but it is because of the way that they think versus the way that you think.
Yeah, and I understand it's hard to break that cycle, because when you're in that depressive, self-loathing state, you're attracting more bad luck and more bad things happening to you. So it's like it can feel really overwhelming, and like you're never going to get out of it, but you can,
And it's
just
one of the
baby steps.
tragedies of it is that people who have had traumatic experiences become magnets for more traumatic experiences.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the sad truth of the way it works. And I do believe that we all sort of planned our path before we came here, even the really bad, nasty stuff that, coming to the earth realm is very much like going to the gym for your soul. You come here to do hard things, to get hurt, and to learn and grow through it. I mean, we come here to love and to laugh also, obviously, but there can't be joy without suffering and pain. You have to have something relative to bounce it off of. And I do think that, I believe, my own personal belief is that we come here to grow, and that growth happens more through hardship than through anything else, and that's what we're talking about, because this is us growing. Like, you and I have both grown through this spiritual path, grown into happier, healthier, better people because of it. And it's been wonderful, but it's hard too. It's the spiritual path can be very lonely. Spiritual path you can certainly lose a lot of friends who suddenly think you're crazy.
But then you attract more weird friends.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've noticed, like I kind of rebranded my personal social media during COVID, because I was like, I'm using Instagram to connect with like the occult community. I'm just going to go for it. And that's going to be what I am now. And I was nervous doing that, but I've actually found it's connected me so much more to people. I've had old friends from high school reach out to me and go, can you teach me about crystals? Like, so it feels good to just put it out there, because I find that there are so many people who want to learn more about this, but, they were raised with preconceived notions. Like I had a girl ask me just the other day, like, can you really conjure a demon when you do a tarot reading? Like, I'm like, no, but it's crazy that people still think stuff like that, but at least they're asking the questions and willing to learn more.
Yeah. And also, if you're not initiated into what these things are and what they mean, then if you say, can you conjure a demon? That's a very different question than it is. It's a very different question to one person than it is to another. Mm-hmm. Right. So when it comes to like goetic demonic work, I'm a firm believer in Crowley's definition, which is that the spirits of the Goetia, the demons of the Goetia, are portions of the human mind. So can I conjure a demon? Yes, 100% I can conjure a demon, but that doesn't mean the same thing to me as it does to you. To me, it's me having a conversation with a part of myself.
Absolutely.
Somebody else is thinking, I'm going to make this giant red monster appear in front of me, which has never happened to me. But here's the other thing, okay? Let's remember, as above, so below, as within, so without. Your entire experience of reality is hallucination being controlled by your brain. Okay. The whole thing is hallucinatory. You can induce hallucinations that feel and that are essentially real, because none of this is real. Okay. So that's like really deep magical thinking and workings. And when new people ask me about that stuff, I always tell them, like, don't even start there. Let's just start with having a conversation with the universe. Let's just start there. Don't, because then, you could break down the psychic realm into individual parts and archetypes and attempt to have conversations with those individual parts and archetypes. This is a part of my practice and it works, but this is advanced stuff. And, maybe not the best place for beginner questions, right? Crystals are a great place to start. Meditation is a great place to start. Tarot is a great place to start. If you want to get into the inner workings of complicated ritual magic, don't start there. Have a goal of going there for sure. It's an amazing thing. And in my own practice, I work with spirits and entities and demons. But again, it's just about working with them in a way that's personal to you and that they are representative of something that is meaningful to you. That's what matters, when it comes to all that stuff. And it's not for everybody. I like to keep my magic practice very simple. I mostly work with chaos magic. I do a lot of sigil work, but I also incorporate tarot magic, goetic magic and a lot of Norse pagan aesthetic and rituals because I love the aesthetic and the ritual of it. But I view all of it as just different languages through which we communicate with the universe and the spirit realm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would say too, for anyone wanting to kind of explore magic and witchcraft and different modalities, just experiment and try different things. And for me, what's been really helpful is working with mentors who I really respect their practice. And I mean, I have a mentor that I work with, I meet with her, and, I get that knowledge and that background from her, because I also do think it's important to educate yourself as much as possible and learn from people who are more advanced than you, and have that support system as well. So for me personally, I'll literally go on Instagram and reach out to other people in the occult community who are much more advanced than I am and say, hey, can I take a lesson from you? And kind of build up that support system and kind of surround myself by people who I really admire. That's been really, really fundamental for me in growing and learning as much as I can.
Yeah. And it depends on what type of learning suits you. Everybody's different. I think that a lot of people in the spiritual community now, like me, have hyper ADHD, and so maybe one particular set discipline is just not appealing to us, right? And so you can talk to everybody. And if you have this open mind, which I think is a wonderful thing to have when it comes to these senses of spirituality, again, rather than saying one is right and one is wrong, say that they're all just different languages. Learn as many languages as you're into, and take bits and pieces from one another and combine them into your own inner knowing and inner wisdom. And they will sort of do this on your own. You don't really say, I like this and I like this, and so I'm going to put them together. Mm-hmm. People do that all the time, but I feel like they're trying to force it. Usually, if you just allow yourself to be around people who you feel are wise and soak some of it up, your own higher self will put pieces together and sort of form something for you that becomes very workable. Mm-hmm. My own practice is a mishmash of several other things, but it's exactly the language that the universe and I have agreed upon together. And so it's highly effective and potent for that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I also see different magical practices as different languages, and there's a lot of beauty that comes in finding that connective thread between all of them, and finding common, I'm a writer, so I'm always looking for like common stories or common messages or common themes. And I do tend to find that in different practices. And I think kind of finding that like universal truth that mm-hmm. exists throughout each of them is something that I really enjoy.
I agree. And I think that for me, being a chaos magician, it kind of comes down to, as Peter Carroll wrote, nothing is true, everything is permitted. That rings very true to me, as funny as that is. Mm-hmm. Something my spirit guides told me directly is that your experience of reality will conform to your beliefs about it. So choose beliefs that really work for you. I think that's very rudimentary, fundamental. And finally, that underneath all of these beautifully complicated systems, and there are many beautifully complicated systems of magic and spirituality, obviously, at the core of all of them is just this idea that you're in a relationship with the universe. Everything else gets built on top of that. And so that seems to be like the one real truth, is that you are not just you are the universe, and you are yourself and the universe both at the same time, in a dialogue, in a constant conversation. And what are you going to do about that?
yeah that's the thing, is for me at least, and for other people I've shared this with, once the universe starts talking to you, it does not stop. No. And it will tell you what it wants you to do. Your spirit guides will be very loud and very clear. It's a relationship that once it's there, it doesn't go away, which is really beautiful.
It is. And there does seem to be some sort of spiritual law or truth about this relationship, and that if you don't engage with it, it won't force itself on you. Like, you have to invite it in, and some of us, I think a lot of us were raised in a way, I was raised in a way to close that door. Like, that's not real. That's just bullshit. And so you close that door, and the universe respects your decision to close that door until you reopen it. And once it reopens it, it's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for so long. I have so much to say to you. Especially with people who are older, in their 30s or later. Not that that's old. I'm 38, but later, a little bit later in your adult life, if you have a powerful spiritual awakening, your spirit guides have so much to say, because they've been sitting on their thumbs, just like waiting for you to make contact forever and ever and ever. I'm sure that your ancestors are hoping you figure it out as a kid, but very few of us do.
Yeah, that was definitely my experience. Just kind of like, okay, great, you're here. Now here's all these things we want you to do. Like, we have a list. Here's your to-do list. Now go out and start getting this stuff done, because you're on a mission and you're wasting time.
Yeah, you're on a mission. You're here to do things, to make changes in the world, to affect change. And again, it doesn't have to be some grand thing. And if you look at your star chart and your numerology, you can really start to figure out, like, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, this is my comfort zone, this is where I need to grow into. And it's all pointing in this one direction. And I personally call it the arrow of destiny. That's the way that I describe this phenomenon. But you can look at it and say, okay, that's what I'm here to do. And then when you start doing it, I mean, I have like a dozen or more clients who have all started on this path of kind of following this path that they found through numerology and astrology, and they all become happier people, like, immediately, more confident in themselves, more confident in what they're doing, because it's a scary thing, because we all know what our inner calling is, but there's so much societal pressure to do something else, because very few of us just fall into that line of work where you're actually going through with your inner calling in life and what it is to do. It doesn't have to be a job, right? But very few of us get to go in that direction, because society tries to push everyone in the same kind of 9-to-5 rat race direction. And that's not what you came here to do. I guarantee you did not come here to work a 9-to-5 and be miserable. And that's it.
Yeah. I always tell people at the very least, or like what my suggestion would be, if you're in that place of like, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't know what I want, look at and see what your north node is in. And that's a good place, at least to start, to understand what kind of plan the universe might have for you, and just kind of go from there.
Or I like to believe, like, yes, I think the universe has plans for us, because we are the universe. Like, you are the universe, I am the universe. But I like to think that we plan these things out for ourselves, for the trajectory of our own soul. Like, what did you come here to learn? If it helps you to feel like the universe sent you on a mission, then by all means. Personally, being a life path 1, I like to think I picked it for myself. And that I'm on my own, journey, and my soul came here to do something, and I'm going to see it through. Just like, another language of symbolism that I love is like video games. Like, your human body is the avatar of the video game your soul is playing. Now, if you're playing a video game, one of my favorite video games is Halo. You don't make Master Chief sit there and do nothing and watch TV all day. You go fight the aliens and win the fucking game, and you defeat the bad guys and do the mission. That's what we're here to do, is to win. We're here to come conquer these obstacles that are set out in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we're all meant to kind of level up in our own way. And I think for me, at least, like, a lot of times when I'm not feeling so good mental health wise, it's because I've stopped playing the game.
Yeah.
Basically, and I think maybe a lot of people find themselves in that situation where they're kind of going through the motions, but you're not really advancing, or you're not progressing.
Or you've rightfully sort of decided it's too hard. Been confronted with this next level, and you're like, this is too fucking hard. I can't do it, because no one's giving you the power glove or the cheat codes that you need in order to get through this level. And that's what spirituality can do for you, is give you that edge that you need to face this next level of reality. That's definitely how I felt when I was really not doing well. I've had many low points in my life where I just felt like, I can't do this. Just can't do it. Just look at what's ahead and say, nope, I can't do it. But ever since, I formed that connection with my spirit guides, they're always right there saying, yes, you can. It's fine. Just do it. Just go ahead. You know what I mean? You're fine. Just do it. We got you.
We got your back. Just take a jump.
It does. It helps you move forward. They are there to help you, and they do help you, and it is going to be okay. Becoming stagnant is a fear trauma response, but like it's still stagnation. It's not going to get you anywhere. You can't be in flow if you're not in motion, right? If you're stuck, you're stuck, and you have to unstick yourself. And it seems overwhelmingly difficult. I totally get that. I know. So look to the universe and ask it for help. You're not alone. You're not as alone as you may feel you are. The universe will help you. You just have to open up that dialogue with it.
Yeah. I've never found that to not be true for anybody. I've never known anyone who asked the universe for help or guidance or just reassurance that it's still out there and gotten a negative or hurtful or painful experience. I think just really having that trust that there is something out there that has your back and that wants the best for you and that wants to see you succeed and level up and grow and become the person that you're meant to become. Having faith that that's the case, it kind of gives you that momentum to keep going.
Yeah, it does. I can't tell you, if you're listening to this podcast, I can't tell you what it feels like. You have to go experience it for yourself. Go download a meditation app and sit alone with some headphones. It doesn't have to be complicated, or even just listen to your favorite music and zone out and ask the universe a question. Experience this for yourself, because hearing about it will never equal experiencing it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Just really seeking things for yourself. I think it's great to read literature or, hear about other people's experiences. But I personally think everyone's experience of finding their spiritual path is very different. And I think some people mistake their personal experience for the truth. And when you're just kind of following someone else's guidance or someone else's experience, expecting to have the same experience, and then you don't, and then it can feel discouraging, that can be problematic. So yeah, definitely seek things for yourself.
Yeah. And that's, a whole nother conversation for another episode, but, don't forget your own personal gnosis is the most important thing in the world to you. If it doesn't match up with someone else's, don't worry about that. It's fine. You're going to have your own experience. And I hope that you do have your own experience. So on that, I think that's about all the time we've got for today. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the show. This is really great. I love this topic. I could talk about it forever.
Same. Thank you for having me.